Hello everyone, this is the English version of my channel, translated by a neural network. I can't vouch for the quality of English because I don't know it. Enjoy your viewing! One, two, three, greeting you my multi-million army of hand-paint artists. In this video, I will tell you why hand paint is not a style. Just when, in one case, a person asked me for help and told me he likes hand painting. And in the second case, in the hand paint course from Smirnov School, I heard from the lecturer, words combinations, hand paint styling. I understood that the community needs this video. Let's stop being ordinary people and find out what hand paint really is. Let's start with how the layman thinks. He simply has zero knowledge in hand paint. He sees Warcraft, he sees hand-painted textures, and that's it. Hand paint, Warcraft style, hand-painted textures, and hand paint style means Warcraft, and that's it. His understanding of hand paint is limited to this. But because Warcraft is a super popular project and everything there is hand-drawn graphics, people like it. People want to do it. I support them and understand perfectly. And this video is aimed at them, and for them I will tell the story of hand painting. And to start with, I'll throw in a small analogy. I'm here complaining that hand paint is not a style and that it's a broader concept, just like, by analogy, dogs are animals, yes, but not all animals are dogs. The same with hand paint. Is Warcraft hand paint? Yes, but not all hand paint is Warcraft. See, Condition Zero is also done using hand paint texturing technologies. Remember this phrase? But at the same time, Counter-Strike. Condition Zero is not stylized and painted with brushes like a regular drawing, like here. Well, I'd like to say a few words about the term style. It can be misleading. For example, if an artist is told to make a game in the style of Warcraft, everyone will think about stylization and texture. And if we also say, let's make a game in the style of Valorant, they'll think about stylization, textures and everything else. And if we say, let's make a game in the style of Call of Duty, here people will start to wonder, do you want to create gameplay as dynamic as Call of Duty, or a modern setting, what is the topic? And here the phrase in style begins to mean the same as of type, or in the spirit of. We make a game in such a style, we make a game of such type. And this is where the misconception and confusion lies. Speaking generally about styles, we only have two of them. It's realism and stylization. And this table that we toggle, we choose what we will have. Realistic setting, realistic style, or cartoon. Blueprint is a texture creation technology. When all the information is depicted on one texture, it's called diffuse. I even wrote you the title. Let's discuss different hand painting in detail. You need to understand that in ancient times, when RAM was measured in megabytes and video cards were generally weak, then this was the only way to texture. It was called texturing. It was called PBR texturing. It was called hand paint texturing. It was just texturing. Simply, if you want to depict realism, how will you do it? You just take photos, real weapon samples, and bring them into Photoshop, unfold everything, do all the work there. And since you're with the engine, there's no real source of light, shadows, and everything else because your computers are weak. You don't know the information about the light. Here are the highlights. Here are the highlights. And about the shadows, these here, like snowy and everything else, you will incorporate into the texture with brushes. In Photoshop, you can fill hand paint, manual light drawing, manual shadow drawing, and manual detail drawing. And this is how hand paint realism was created in the past. By the way, procedural hand paint came to replace it later. We'll talk about it later. Now about the drawn hand paint. Well, this is that very hand paint style, stylization of hand paint. You can even see by these streaks that this is a round acid work. And this is all the same in Warcraft, League of Legends and all other projects. Just when we create textures as if we are drawing. This is drawn hand paint. And procedural hand paint, it came to replace these photographs. Why do you need to photograph weapons when you can make it in Substance Painter, throw on materials of metal wood and then somehow tinker with them? You can also bake light like this, bake an occlusion. Put all of this together into a diffuse map, it will be such a hand play. But under realism, no hand paint. It's done by the same principle, only instead of drawing textures we bake, just like instead of drawing we take photos and process them. This is all a story about one. In hand paint texturing, and here I combine the final thoughts. Textures can be created using photo collages and processing. Whether they are created by their brushes or as illustrations, it doesn't matter. Nowadays, a modern realistic handprint is the processing of baked textures from high poly models. Let's refresh this thought after 10 seconds. That hand paint is called hand paint for a reason. Because the main work on creating textures takes place in Photoshop by hand, both in the past and today. That is, the texture is drawn or processed. Well, hand paint is hand drawing, manual work and so on. If there are crowds here, write in the comments what these projections are. And no, it's not Stalker 2, ha ha ha. Alright, after a second long joke, let's get back to the video. The most important difference of HP from PBR is the presence of light and shadows in the albedo map. In PBR, lighting on textures is not acceptable. So, if we put lighting and shadows into albedo, it turns into a diffuse map. That's the map we need. Such a one is not needed for PBR. PBR needs a clean one without lighting and shadows. And this, by the way, is the difference between PBR and hand paint. These are just two different texture creation methods that will work differently in engines. And here I will connect the second analogy, where we have walking and running. We don't call walking and running styles because it's a way of moving, just like hand paint. CBR is texture creation technology, but also a way of creating texture, or a method of creating texture. Well, it can also be called a texture pipeline and so on. Same words that will bring the same meaning. And there can be different types of walking or running. Let there be varieties of styles, so be it. And here on the left, what's on the right, some examples are given. But I don't understand how handprint style or PBR style can be called, because these are just technologies. And where they will be applied, that's where the style will be. Here I repeat that with the development of technology and hardware, it became possible to create heavier graphics, hence the division into handpaint and PNG. What was before and what came after. Here's an example of Call of Duty 1 2003, fully handpaint. That's Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 1. Either the normal map was adjusted to the local models here, or the gloss maps were tweaked. I honestly don't remember. Something. Well, it's still the same hand paint, where all the information is on the texture. But now, to make the texture respond to lighting, they added these special textures. So, who's in at 9:16? Modern Warfare 1. Just a reboot from what year? 2019, right? Here, all the latest technologies are already in use, demanding hardware is needed for the game to launch and so on. Basically full PBR, and while modern computer technologies have moved to PBR and photorealistic graphics are used more and more often there. Along with the Substance printer, hand-painted textures came back to life on weak mobile devices. But it should be understood that even here, PBR is starting to come with the increase in device power. So here are two examples of games, somewhere there is a hand paint, such a terrible one. In short, surely just take a look at these lighting textures. And at the same time, next door, on a more top-notch device, we're launching what I understand to be mobile Call of Duty. There are real shadows over there, real lighting in general, PBR. So, technology is also starting to suffocate us. Instead of launching tons of games on low-end devices, now we'll be suffocated by these demands. Regarding the game versions, Android version, hardware version, and everything else. And I thought handpaint had taken the crown here. Thought wrong. To conclude our kızına I would like to give an example of the Dawn of Zombies game. It uses handprint textures created with bakes and manual texture brushes. What does this mean? How to get caught with a high poly stove? Just look at these folds, it's visible. Too light a fold, too dark a fold. They also look like this, I don't know, singed. How to form? Well, just some kind of whiteness, such a relief. Especially here, it looks like that this I don't know, can't explain, just unnatural. And this is roasted with high poly folds. Texture brushes are hacked right here. This textured kind of prints, but at the same time the glint is drawn as in classical painting. But these textures are used on the print, so this game pretends to be realistic. And this video is coming to an end. Now you know much more about hand paint. You can also watch a video where I will talk about hand paint cycle. There are literally thousands of them. It's not only drawn, but also mimicking realism. I think people will find this part interesting. That's all. Go for it.